Tupac didn't die in the car. He stabbed him in the heart over and over until he stopped breathing. 2:39 a.m. The security scan system in the medical wing of Victorville Prison registered an unusual electromagnetic signal originating from X-ray room number 3. A signal emitted by a machine that had been sealed off since 2002 with no scheduled appointments, no registered patients, and no staff on duty during that time slot. 3 minutes later, the system automatically downloaded an unnamed X-ray image, marked only with a single code Tupac L5 front lung. The image revealed a bullet that had never been extracted, lodged near the left lung tissue with its tip fully intact and undeformed. The angle of entry did not match any known trajectory documented in the 1996 forensic records. 6:13 a.m. That same morning, Suge Knight submitted a handwritten statement exactly 7 lines long. No introduction, no signature of acknowledgement, ending with one final line written in red ink. That was the 5th bullet. And it didn't come from outside the car. For the first time in 29 years, physical evidence resurfaced. And this time, there was no way to deny it. Part 1, The Nameless Bullet and the Image That Was Never Meant to Exist. 5-17 a.m., July 12, 2025. The Medical Imaging Archive System at Victorville Prison triggered a Level 3 security alert. An X-ray file with an identifier matching a sealed medical record from 2002 had just been accessed internally. Without any valid login session, without medical personnel authentication, without timestamped interaction from any peripheral device. And most notably without anyone being authorized to handle medical records related to the inmate referenced by code Tupac L5 front lung in the entire system for over 2 decades. The lone X-ray image marked Do Not Distribute displayed the frontal chest area of an adult male. On the left side, there was a minor fracture in the 6th rib close to the central lung region, and between the dark outlines of the alveolar cavity lodged a 9mm lead bullet fully intact, undeformed tip pointing downward, embedded at an angle. Inconsistent with any wound trajectory previously recorded in the official 1997 forensic report of Tupac Shakur. Curiously, the image bore no capture date, no machine serial number, no standard DICOM formatting as required by federal medical protocol. The file existed only as a raw single-layer 16-bit image named with a unique string 1996 NVR5 shot downloaded from a tertiary subsystem used for storing manual backups prior to full medical digitization in 2005. The technical team examined the system logs over the next 6 hours. No valid access records were found to have triggered the file. However, an internal electromagnetic report confirmed that at 2:39 a.m., a static pulse activated a file open command from inside the secondary security layer as if an old device had been physically reconnected and issued a command through a local port. Something that could only happen if someone was physically at the terminal or if a proxy device had been embedded into the system years ago. Upon opening, the file contained only the image, no annotation, no description, no attached report. But buried deep in the file's hidden memory metadata was a timestamp 3:41 a.m. September 14, 1996, exactly 6 hours after Tupac Shakur was officially declared dead at the University of Nevada Medical Center in Las Vegas. Here's the issue. No X-ray was ever mentioned in Tupac's original death records. No scan request was filed. No doctor, nurse, or technician ever reported conducting such an image. 6:13 a.m. A handwritten declaration was submitted from the medical unit of the prison where Suge Knight was under observation following the prior week's assault. The statement was 7 lines long, written on yellow paper in red pen, no title, no summons order. It started without a declarative sentence and ended without a signature. The 3rd line read, "It's been there since that night. They thought. I didn't know, but I always knew it was never taken out." And the final line written in bold slanted script read exactly. That was the 5th bullet, and it didn't come from outside the car. The internal investigation team immediately requested verification of any ballistic samples from the 1996 forensic records that might match the bullet shown in the image. The result, only 4 bullets were recovered from Tupac's body and logged in the autopsy report. The fifth, if it existed, was never documented. No image, no paperwork, no ballistic striation records, no tip analysis. And if that bullet was still in his body, it meant one of two things. Either Tupac did not die instantly, or someone deliberately erased the most critical piece of evidence tied to the fatal shot. At the Federal Forensic Data Center, technicians analyzed the bullet's entry angle and point of contact from the X-ray. The round entered at a downward diagonal 37 degrees right side spin shallow depth, indicating a close-range shot, less than 1.2 m. This detail was crucial. Every injury previously disclosed had horizontal trajectories, meaning they came from outside the car from the passenger side or windshield direction. But a downward angle could only originate from inside the cabin, likely from someone standing or sitting behind Tupac's seat at very close range. When analyzing the BMW 750iL layout, where Tupac sat in the passenger seat and Suge Knight was driving, the space behind the front passenger seat was too tight for anyone to sit comfortably unless they were a trusted individual granted access to the cabin, either sitting in the middle or adjacent without scrutiny. No one else had that clearance except a member of the entourage or a fellow artist. On the evening of September 7, 1996, only one person fit both roles of former tour crew member, collaborator, and close associate with unrestricted movement, Calvin Cordazer Broadus Jr. Snoop Dogg. When the investigation team submitted a query to the Military Medical Archives, which once held federal forensic copies from 1992,000, they received a red alert notice 19 minutes later. Record with ballistics code L5 front lung TU classified under contingency directive paraffin 54B, access denied without dual authorization from the Department of Justice and the Strategic Coordination Board. This marked the first time since the Jeffrey Epstein case that a civilian X-ray file was encrypted at the strategic security tier, a level reserved only for records deemed capable of triggering systemic consequences if made public. And there's only one reason for that. That bullet was never supposed to exist. Knight said nothing more. He didn't sign, didn't respond to follow-ups. He simply submitted the 7-line statement and turned to face the wall, refusing food, drink, or contact. In the internal nurse's report, the attending staff recorded the only sentence he whispered before falling silent. He didn't die right then, but after that bullet, there was no more chance. No one could trace the origin of the image. No one could identify who unlocked the system. No one dared backtrack the transmission route to find the sender. But the entire system, from forensics tech investigators to security oversight, agreed on one point: the fifth bullet was real. And if it came from inside the car, then either Suge Knight was lying or someone else was in that cabin, a person who has never been named. And only one name was ever close enough to avoid scrutiny. Only one man ever sat directly behind Tupac. And now a bullet has spoken on behalf of a confession that was never allowed to be heard. Part 2, the command no one entered and the medical vault door that automatically opened at 3:14 a.m. M0314 a.m. on July 12, 2025. The security control system in the forensic storage vault in the Victorville Medical Center basement unexpectedly registered a series of access requests tied to a Level 3 command, a level that can only be activated by the technical team lead or the Federal Data Archive Administration. The issue: no one on the night shift had that authority. No personnel were present in the basement at that time. No access request had been scheduled in advance. And the code used to open the door belonged to an account that had been deactivated since 2013, identified as JS Night Access, LVL3 path. When the vault door opened automatically, the system sent no alarm. There was no motion sensor log yet. 3 cameras placed at diagonal angles recorded something nearly impossible. A dim mist-like light sweeping across the frame for just 2 seconds, then vanishing. Technical analysis showed that the glow was not from any physical light source. No reflections, no shadows, but a slight brightness spike captured by the COS sensor, forming a flickering pattern as if scanned by a low-intensity infrared device. Immediately after the door opened, a storage device was temporarily connected to the vault's network port, lasting exactly 47 seconds. Incoming data came from an unidentified source. Outgoing data consisted of a single file 1996 NVR fifth shot DCM, which matched exactly the X-ray image discovered in the medical archive software on the third floor 2 hours later. The file was compressed with LZ4, left no temporary files, no export logs, no system copies, no malware. But this file had never existed on any active server from 1996 until now. The interagency investigation team reviewed all movement logs, network connections, and inspected the physical vault lock. No signs of tampering, no biological residue, no unfamiliar footprints. However, upon removing the auxiliary power system, technical staff discovered a signal conduction wire nicked by a specialty blade, its copper end tightly wrapped in white insulation tape, a type used only in old repair kits from before the 2005 system overhaul. No one on the current technical team was trained for such wiring, and there was no reason for an auxiliary data port to exist in the basement vault unless it had been installed before the last renovation in 2010. The inspection report showed that the data port did not connect to the main system. It existed outside the wiring diagram, lacking identification. And most alarmingly, it did not transmit outward, but received signals on a specific frequency between 435–440 miles compatible with low-orbit satellite transmitters or directed shortwave signals. Someone not only opened the vault, they activated the internal wireless system using a signal programmed from outside, passing through physical security, and initiated file retrieval from an operating system outside the internal network. At the command center, a security staffer noted an automatic hard drive ghost image overwrite between ORO 312 and 0321 coinciding with the door opening window. The ghost image contained a background execution command, inject mirror fifth shell. This command was not found in any current maintenance code, but it exactly matched a code string used by the storage system in the Nevada Military Forensic Lab in 1996, where Tupac Shakur's autopsy took place. When investigators traced the access history of the fifth shell command on the federal storage network, forensic teams discovered that that file was only ever opened once on September 9, 1996, 48 hours after Tupac's official death, and was flagged as moved to a higher security tier with no confirming signature. The metadata description read X-ray raw unverified entry non-conclusive, retain until cross-confirmed. Since then, no one knew where it went. No one asked why it wasn't included in the investigation record, and no one admitted it ever existed. From here, a question emerges. Why was a Tupac-related access code reactivated from a dead power cable? 15 years old? And why did it occur precisely when Suge Knight submitted his first handwritten statement about the fifth bullet simultaneously from the prison's medical data system? A sub-account named Coordinator Pack 96 was automatically activated for 17 seconds, issuing 3 commands. Open access logs, confirm download of fifth shot, and block all user feedback to the server for the next 3 minutes. No one logged in. No one granted permission yet. The commands were executed and the final connection vanished into the internal proxy address of a device registered in the Strategic Coordination Office under the Department of Defense. Investigators demanded a sweep of all backup archives. Every image drive was checked. No other file carried the fifth shot code. No other X-ray matched that angle, that bullet, that moment. But the image is real. Retrieved from the prison's own server via a signal port deliberately buried with an access code nobody remembered existed, and from a location no one knows why is still active. 046 a.m. The Gray Tier monitoring system issued a single alert to 2 agencies, the Forensic Security Task Force and the Border Control Authority, with this code unconfirmed image extracted. Reclassify as Omega Grade, a designation used only for data that could fundamentally alter a confirmed investigation file. This alert was last used during the unverified Epstein document incident, and there is only one reason it was triggered. The system could no longer tell what is truth. In the final internal report, the technical analysis team wrote the fifth bullet. If real did not come from outside the vehicle, every bullet path, every depth, every tissue response indicates the shot originated from inside. Impact on the left rib diagonal angle from above, distance under 1.2 emulator with no shattering fragment or deflection, meaning no windshield, no barrier. It could only have occurred with the shooter inside the vehicle or sitting behind Tupac's seat. A bullet not reported in forensic files. A never published X-ray. An access code activated from a dead conduit. An auto-ping vault door in the night. Touched by no one with no one nearby. And one person, the only one who said that, was the finishing bullet. The question is no longer who shot Tupac, but who was sitting behind Tupac in that moment. And why did every system choose not to name him for 29 years? Part 3, Witness Evidence, Secondary Camera, Additional Data. At 7:32 a.m., the facial recognition system in Clinic B, a section designated for high-risk inmates under close surveillance, automatically scanned and captured an individual not listed in the treatment schedule. The person appeared briefly on a ceiling-mounted camera in Corridor 2B for less than 4 seconds, wearing a medical cap mask and a sub-staffed for endoscopy personnel, but the employee ID could not be verified in the system. Strangely though, the mask obscured most of the face. The visible jaw structure matched the facial data of someone believed to be deceased Dr. Leo J. Mahoney, a forensic field officer from the 1996 Tupac case who reportedly died in a 2009 explosion accident in Virginia. The only still image retained from that camera shows heavy visual interference in the background on the left shoulder area with color axis distortion suggesting temporary signal jamming. Notably in the frame, the person is holding what appears to be a thin file folder, the cover marked with the Old Nevada Forensic Archive seal, 3 parallel red stripes, an identifier for unverified evidence. At 8:04 a.m., prison staff checked the Corridor 2B camera, but the video file had already been deleted from the internal server. A recovery from cache revealed it was manually overwritten without trace deletion software in a manner consistent with covert military signal ripping tools. The digital analysts traced the overwrite command to an IP from a handheld device previously used by the FBI during the Hunter Biden document raid in 2022. A device capable of data copying via near-field waves within 1 meter without network connection. 1 hour later in Analysis Room 4, medical staff discovered a previously unlogged sample in the dedicated cold storage cabinet, a glass vial containing lyophilized biological tissue labeled Pack Fresh 96. According to the old preservation protocol, the term fresh indicates the evidence has never been thawed, i.e., the original sample, not a copy. The signature beneath M matched the handwriting of Michael S. Ransom, the second autopsy assistant in the Tupac case, who had refused to sign off on the immediate cause of death because he believed there was a gap in the ballistic anatomy. Preliminary genetic analysis confirmed the tissue's authenticity. The DNA matched previously archived blood and tissue samples of Tupac at the Nevada Medical Institute. Next to the vial was a small sealed pouch containing an unrecorded 9mm bullet. The bullet was clean without prominent scratches, but had a slight dent on the base as if struck against a metal seat frame. More importantly, its rifling pattern did not match any firearms recorded in the 1996 case files, even the Glock 22 alleged to be the murder weapon. The spiral rifling corresponded to a Beretta 92 FS, a gun not mentioned in any official report, but listed among standard issue equipment for the death row record security team that year. Why does a bullet from an unacknowledged firearm exist? And why does it match a weapon distributed to a team just 2 cars away from the shooting location? At the same time, investigators received a leaked video via an anonymous tour submitted message, a 2-minute 48-second clip capturing the end of a meeting in Death Row Records' main office. 3 people appear. Suge Knight, the chief sound engineer. And a third figure with a concealed face, but a distinct voice matching Snoop Dogg's 1996 voice. In the footage, as Suge leaves the room, the remaining 2 whisper, "He doesn't understand if that guy lived, we're all gone." The video lacks a date, but the recording device is a 1995 Sony Handycam, and it ends with a segment cut from a VHS camera placed upside down on a bookshelf identical to the layout of Suge's office as photographed in a September 1996 press shoot. When questioned again in a confidential hearing, Suge Knight said only, "I don't think Snoop pulled the trigger, but he knows that bullet didn't come from outside." No one knows what he meant. But later that afternoon, the only witness who claimed to have seen a shadow slip out of the back seat of the Cadillac, Jose Cuddy Parales, a former death row delivery driver, suddenly withdrew his entire statement, citing temporary memory loss due to PTSD. Within the same 24 hours, his bank account received a wire transfer of $74,500 from Greenmarker Entertainment LLC, a media intermediary company established by Snoop Dogg's attorney in Delaware in 2021. That same day, Victorville Prison received an internal order from the Office of Inmate Communications Oversight to remove all cameras in Corridor B for lighting system maintenance. No upgrade plan was announced beforehand. No one explained why Corridor 2B's lighting system, including the camera in Clinic B, required priority maintenance. All evidence, the bullet, the tissue sample, the handwritten statement, the video clip was handed over to a special investigative task force in Washington, D.C., coordinated by the Department of Justice and the Special Archives Agency, but no press release was permitted and no copies were allowed. Even the prison's forensic team was denied access. What are we witnessing? A bullet nobody recalls. A camera nobody saw. A witness whose words vanished in silence. A video clip warning live or perish, and all of it points to the same place, the back seat of that Cadillac, an area never properly investigated. Part 4, Leaked Files, Ban Orders, Implicit Directives, Signs of an Underlying Organization. On March 8, exactly 72 hours after the video leak from the death row office was recovered, an anonymous email landed in the inbox of the Clark County Justice Archive with the simple subject "Missing PAC Scan." Attached was a PDF. Scanned from yellowed paper, an X-ray image of Tupac's left lung, timestamp 22:49 on September 13, 1996, over an hour after official reports claimed Tupac had died on the operating table. The rotation of the image and the bullet's position matched the X-ray sent from Victorville Prison with 99% accuracy, including a scratch on the lung margin and a 7-degree downward angle directly opposing the direction documented in the original autopsy report. Also included was an internal level a "Do Not Circulate" for internal recon-only distribution ban issued by the Nevada Department of Justice and signed in blue ink by someone identified only as MAB with no listed title. This meant the document was for internal verification only, no backups, exports, or transfers to any organization beyond the designated investigative team. When the tech team checked the image ID and timestamp, they discovered something odd. The scan was labeled PAC 05L5X, while publicly released medical records of Tupac only go up to PS04. There were no PS05 or PS6, implying at least 2 images that were never filed in the official record yet existed within internal systems. An internal inquiry was sent to Clark County Forensic Archive requesting confirmation, but it was rejected. The response stated data protected under interagency directive related to federal-level security. No further explanation or access instructions. Moreover, all external IP accounts were locked out for the next 96 hours. During this time, an internal report leaked from the Pentagon's Technology Safety Inspectorate, stating, the radio emission pattern detected within Victorville facility matches signature used in silent wireframe operations, a covert surveillance campaign targeting high-level witnesses in high-profile cases. This report was never officially released. However, the digital signature belongs to Lieutenant Colonel Ronald J. Peters, who previously oversaw news control during the Bin Laden fake body operation in 2011. An independent investigative outlet, FactLock, filed FOIA requests to both the DOJ and Nevada's DOJ, but received only no matching records found. Shortly after, their website suffered a 41-hour DOS attack, and upon restoration, all Tupac-related articles had been deleted. No notice, no explanation. The admin login for the attack originated from Los Angeles, California, just 3 kilometers from Snoop Dogg's new studio headquarters. On March 11, an emergency meeting was convened inside Victorville Prison with representatives from the FBI, the DOJ, and an unidentified Planello individual claiming to be a technical advisor from the Special Access Division. They demanded that all staff involved with handling the X-ray camera footage, videotape, and bullet evidence sign a binding confidentiality agreement stating any disclosure, duplication, comment, discussion, or reference to the existence of these materials will be prosecuted under national security protocols. It was the first time in 11 years that Victorville Prison had enforced national security standard protocols for an incident within the medical unit. At the same time, a document was hand-delivered to Suge Knight's defense attorney by an internal courier. It consisted of 3 pages. 1. A scanned fax from 1996 titled Ballistics Pack, 5th Shot, no sender, no recipient address. 2. A diagram of the 5th bullet's trajectory from the rear right through the leather seat into the left lung. 3. A copy of the autopsy report with the cause of death section crossed out and replaced in bold unknown input. Shortly after Suge Knight's official counsel, Rhonda Matthews filed a motion to reopen the Tupac case under the basis of organized murder with undisclosed weapon and systemic cover-up. The motion was rejected within 6 hours, not by local court, but directly by the federal DOJ's legal office, a body that rarely intervenes in a case from 1996. Why? The question was posed, but no one answered. Later that afternoon, at exactly 4:41 p.m. Corridor camera number 7 captured Suge Knight placing his hand on the glass door, staring straight out. No words, no movement, but his eyes betrayed that he saw something unspeakable. At that exact moment, all cameras in the cell block froze for 11 minutes, exactly the duration of the unreleased leaked video stored on a drive named Pack Ghost 1996, which was then deleted. Why was it deleted? Why was the 5th bullet never investigated? And why does every lead converge on one thing that nobody dares to name: a Cadillac and the only person in the back seat when Tupac was shot? Still alive, still famous, and never questioned. Part 5 Reactions: Media, Prison Lawyers, and the Right to Remain Silent. Starting at 9:00 a.m. on March 12, the phrase 5th bullet pack suddenly appeared among the top search trends in the Los Angeles area and was accessed more than 2.66 million times within just 4 hours. Anonymous accounts on Reddit, X, Twitter, and some old forums like Tupac Nation continuously shared X-ray scans, bullet trajectory diagrams, and internal fax documents from 1996. But by 1:12 p.m. that same day, all related posts had disappeared. No more download links, no more archives, and the original accounts were permanently suspended, including accounts that hadn't posted anything for more than 5 years. A veteran editor at LA Weekly, who had closely followed the Tupac case since day one, published a short opinion piece titled The 5th Shot No One Named, in which they posed the question: if there was a 5th bullet, then was the shooter someone who was never questioned? The article remained online for exactly 28 minutes. After that, the entire content was replaced by a single line. Content has been removed due to editorial conflict. That editor later announced their resignation, and their personal Exact account was permanently switched to private mode. Inside Victorville Prison, all medical staff were summoned to resign the confidentiality agreement. This time with 2 additional clauses. No contact with any members of the press, and no communication with inmate Suge Knight without supervision from federal personnel. Within 36 hours, 3 nurses were reassigned, 1 X-ray technician submitted their resignation, and the head of medical was transferred to another facility for unspecified reasons. Suge Knight himself, from the moment he submitted a 7-line declaration with 1 line written in red ink, remained completely silent. He refused all interview requests, even from his own attorney. Footage captured each session of him sitting across from Rhonda Matthews without uttering a word. Not a single syllable, not a single reaction. And each time the meeting ended, he wrote the same single line in his old notebook: "They don't want it spoken again." Rhonda Matthews, during a brief press conference, tried to remain composed when asked about the next steps. She said, "We are facing an unprecedented level of improper federal interference, and the new forensic evidence is not being properly reviewed. That clearly shows someone doesn't want the truth exposed." She didn't finish the 3rd sentence before the microphone was cut. The press conference ended abruptly. That same day, a separate press conference was held by a representative of the Nevada Department of Justice, denying all claims about the 5th bullet. They stated, "All the data circulating online cannot be verified at the source." There are no changes to the official forensic conclusion. But when asked about the 1996 facts labeled packs of 5, the spokesperson dodged the question, responding, "We do not comment on documents that haven't been authenticated through our internal system." No confirmation, no denial, just a refusal to continue. Mainstream media, including CNN, Fox, NBC, and ABC, all chose not to cover the story. Instead, on March 13, every major newspaper's front page simultaneously featured coverage of the 50th anniversary of hip-hop with Snoop Dogg as the central figure. On that evening's television program, Snoop stated, "Tupac will forever be a legend, and we will continue to honor his legacy." No one asked about the bullet. No one asked about Suge. No one dared to ask the one question everyone was screaming in their heads. If he was in the passenger seat that night, why was Tupac the only one shot? An independent YouTube channel named Pac Truths attempted to compile all the evidence into a 47-minute video explaining the bullet angle, the X-ray records, and Suge's new testimony. The video was flagged as violating community guidelines and deleted within 15 minutes. The channel received a warning. The backup video also disappeared. And by the next morning, the entire Pac Truths channel no longer existed. Viewers were confused. Fans were angry. Thousands of comments flooded various platforms, but all were hidden from the main feed within hours. Some users managed to record the original clips that had been taken down, but upon re-upload, the video was flagged as historical event manipulation, a label that had only started appearing the month before. By the afternoon of March 14, Rhonda Matthews posted a short message on X, "If I'm silenced, remember the bullet that's not on record." 36 minutes later, the account was locked. Her personal phone number stopped working. Her office address was relocated and all attempts at contact were blocked by a message temporarily suspended due to legal maintenance. Everything revolves around one simple truth. There is a bullet that was never extracted. There is a man who once sat beside the victim, and there is a system actively trying to erase all traces pointing in that direction. The audience gets no answers. The victim no longer speaks, and the only person who survived in the car has never been asked a single question. Why that question hangs in the air, and the silence grows more terrifying than any testimony ever could.